ways of thinking. They're very much interdependent. In other words, they often operate together, but they're completely different. So, what I want you to get is, so we've got an automatic thinking process and we've got a controlled thinking process. This one occurs below consciousness. What that means is it's always on. It's always operating. And it is the thing that allows you to make snap judgments. And that word should send warning bells to you. If you spent enough time with me, you'll realize that it's just not always a good thing. This one engages intentionally and consumes. See, this one requires very little energy. It takes incredibly little energy. If it took more energy, you'd be aware of it, right? Because your brain uses a significant portion amount of the energy that you take in calories every day. Brain uses, I think it's like somewhere around 30% of all of the energy goes to your brain. And very little of that is related to this automatic thinking process. The controlled thinking process is when we are intentional and we start to consider what the right answer is to a particular situation. We've got to turn this one on. The brain will turn it on automatically if there's a conflict between belief and action here. It can initiate that one. This one, as I said, it's intentional, it consumes energy. And it's work. It's mental work to do this. So let me give you an example. This guy is, how much work did that take you?
Not much.
57 times 86.
It consumes energy.
That's not the answer, dude. You see, you got to use a different part of your brain. You got to turn on an intentional process, and you got to start going through. All right, when I memorized the multiplication tables, I didn't go that high, Ron. I don't know.
Right.
Is there a heuristic? Is there an easier way for me to figure this out? And actually, there is. You just, what did I say? 87 times what?
57 times 86.
57 times 86. So I would do 50 times 80, just to get a ballpark, and then
Right.
do 7 times 1, and just. But it gets complicated, doesn't it? There are ways of getting at the answer, but all of a sudden your brain slows down and starts going through this intentional process of figuring stuff out. That consumes energy. And one of the things I read about a while ago is this a concept in all of physics. There's an idea of the conservation of energy. That, do you ever think about why a creek flows or a river flows? It's related to what I'm talking about. You ever thought about it? Or is it just me? I'm just weird and I think about weird things. Look, water always flows with gravity. It's always moving downhill. It's following gravity. It's going to the lowest possible potential energy it can get to. Always. The whole world is about reducing the state of energy. You want to know why your car rusts? If you're in a northern climate, why your car rusts? Because iron, or the main constituent in steel, in the car body of your car, is at a much lower energy state as iron oxide than it ever is as iron. That's why stuff rusts. Because the oxide is the lower energy state, and everything seeks to get to a lower energy state. You need to understand that. Your brain is doing the same thing. Conservation of cognitive resources. Whenever it can use this and not engage that, what has it just done? Saved energy. The problem is, this is where stereotypes, biases, assumptions, incomplete mental models. And judgments. Ooh, there's my favorite word. The judgment is the outcome of this process, but the judgments are based on all of these. And that's all you got to work with when you're going through the automatic process. Unless you're constantly trying to improve so that you don't have stereotypes, you don't have biases, you don't make assumptions. Unless you're trying to physically remove these, this process will make mistakes on a regular basis. We need to engage this one intentionally whenever we're dealing with a real problem. So the connection for root cause analysis with what I'm talking about is to really begin to think about the exercise that we did with Jenga. How quick were you to just go and touch and play? Immediately. That was an automatic response. And this one requires that you take a step back, you turn part of your brain on that's going to burn a lot of calories, and go, how are we going to approach this problem? Oh, wait a minute. What problem are we going to approach right now? Ah, that's too much work. Let me just go back up here and play. If you want to become a really good problem solver, this is an important lesson. This is the difference between amateur and expert. The ability to turn this one on when necessary, to recognize when you're just doing this and when you need to do this. And then to have the self-awareness, the conscious awareness to say, I'm making assumptions, stop it. Step back, what question can I ask right here? So when I teach leadership, guys, a lot of my focus is on building self-awareness. Do you see why? Because this is happening in every aspect of your existence. The way you judge cars on the road. The ones that are cutting you off and the pretty ones that are coming up beside you, whatever. It happens in everything you do. Your interactions at the local grocery store, right? When you take your kid to the soccer practice, you're operating from this. Whatever you do, we tend to spend most of our time there. And I often talk about, when I'm helping people grow self-awareness, this is a form of sleepwalking, if you think about it. You don't need to think, you just act. And how many of you, my favorite example, how many routes, you think about from your house to your place of business, how many routes do you have?
Like 5.
Okay, you're an exception. Most people have 3. There's one primary route that they use every day. The secondary route is when there's traffic. The third route is when there's construction on the secondary or primary, right? Think about it. Yesterday, did you use one route, the same one that you've been using for a long time?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is?
You're automatic.
Because you don't have to think about it. You know, I used to live in Rancho Cucamonga, and I worked in Rancho Cucamonga, and I drove the exact same route. And I literally would think about this as I was driving it. It's like, I'm driving the same route. I've been doing this route for 11 years. Same way every day. I know exactly when the lights are going to turn. I know how to beat them. I know the side streets that, because I don't have one route. I had like several, but there was a one primary. But I was constantly trying to come down here and teach myself to think in the moment. If you want to become a great problem solver, this isn't going to solve problems. And this is the unfortunate reality of many people who are trying to solve problems in your business. And that's why they're solving symptoms. That's why they're fighting fires. Because they need to learn how to burn more energy in a controlled way. And actually learn how to solve problems.